Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. Are you hear me? I think you can hear me, I guess. Yes. Okay, so let me open up my lesson plan for today. Uh, and so that is our plan. And so yes, we have a debate on Friday. It's me versus Kritika. So it'll be glorious, I'm sure. A titanic struggle, like in Masters of the Universe. And so pro versus con on the question to South Koreans. South Korea is strong in demonstrating how to manage multinational corporations. And so before I, of course, go further on that, I want to make sure I don't forget to do the smart attendance. And so we do smart attendance, and your number is 614. Let me show you again, make sure I'm always sharing the screen. So 614 is your smart attendance number, 614. And 612. Oh, 612. I apologize. 612. 612 is the smart attendance number. So let me go to the chatting and put that in there. 612. And there you see. Okay is the smart attendance number. And all right. So there's some overlap between the ideas and concepts I introduce in the class, in all my classes, of course, because I have my theoretical background. I have my theoretical perspectives that I like to use. And so I saw, again, reminded myself something that I haven't brought up in the past that came up. Well, I brought it up, but then I didn't follow through with it in terms of my experience growing up as the son of an immigrant, an economic immigrant who came to the United States and, and always had that fear kind of driving him to achieve, coming to the United States with nothing, coming to the United States with, not even speaking English, had a high school degree from Italy. He had to stop, I think I mentioned maybe in the other class, he had to stop in Buffalo, New York in order to harvest onions in order to make enough money to buy get enough money to buy a bus ticket to Ohio. And growing up, coming to Ohio in a place that is a strong center of American white supremacy. I have to be very careful in my words that I'm using. And of course, this is also relevant to Hyundai and Korean corporations, because Korea corporations like Hyundai, they do quite well in the United States. So one of the major factories of Hyundai in the United States is in Montgomery, Alabama. And Alabama, of course, is a center of the Old South, where the Confederacy was established to try to create and maintain a slave republic by breaking away from the United States, leading to the American Civil War. And predominantly it's a rural state. It's not even like neighboring Georgia, where Georgia is also a southern state in the United States, but it's got Atlanta in it. Atlanta is a huge mega city. Atlanta, the capital of Coca-Cola, the capital of CNN, and other major corporations. Alabama doesn't really have that. I mean, it's got Montgomery is a significant city, but it's mostly rural. And Hyundai does quite well. This Korean company does quite well in managing its facilities, its huge factory facilities in Alabama, dealing with American white people who may not have much experience with Asians, not to mention African Americans as well, in an area that's has been particularly poor. Among the poorest countries, the poorest states in the 50 states, the United States, certainly in the bottom 10 would be Alabama. There are some benefits there, some advantages there. I mean, also Montgomery, Alabama is a center for a big NASA space research facility that is in Montgomery. And that certainly attracts a lot of scientists and researchers to move there. And I'm sure that they have a very good school system because they have so many smart, prosperous, wealthy people working at the NASA research facility in Montgomery, a major NASA research facility. Like they develop the rocket boosters there, and I'm sure Hyundai and other corporations take advantage of that social capital. The years now, it's been many years of people moving there with college degrees, developing a good school system and paying attention to local affairs, to insist upon a good school system and so on. So you can't overcome this, but of course, my region of Ohio is not that impressive. I told you the story. I showed you the online picture of my father's pizza restaurant, Hermano's Pizza, that I grew up working in from what 1968 until on through graduate school. I was working in there, making money in the 1990s, and then we sold 25, 30 years ago. But they kept the name, and I told you the story about what it was like growing up there as an immigrant coming to in that area, and that the place has a reputation for being intensely racist. And that brought to mind something that came up during the pandemic, that a historian who did a study about America from what's called a social history perspective, a grassroots history of America, like what's going on in Ohio. His name was James Lovin, and he died last year. You can see in 2021. And he wanted to challenge this this view of the United States as a country that's making progress. And so somebody created this map reflecting his research and his work and his publications about American grassroots society. And so if you look at this US map here, these are the historical database of sundown towns. So sundown towns means towns where Black people know or should know or must know or better know that they better not be in that town when the sun goes down. Don't be in our town at night. We don't want you sleeping here. We don't want you going to the bars, the restaurants. If you have to come during the day to drive a truck and deliver something, we'll tolerate that. But sundown towns. And of course, it's not going to be big towns. So this is Ohio, my hometown. And this you have to see, this was a revelation to me during the pandemic, because I was talking with another professor. She's at the University of Illinois in Chicago. She comes from a prosperous, wealthy family from my hometown, from the local aristocracy, what C. Wright Mills called the power elite. This family is the part of the power elite in Louisville. And I'm not going to mention names. She is part of that. She's my age, and she's a professor. And she contacted me because of the social media. She sees I publish my material on social media. And so she highlighted to me about this website. So you can see these are not big towns. These are, why doesn't it scroll? It's supposed to scroll. I don't see. Okay, so these are not big towns. These are small towns. You're not going to find Columbus, Ohio, or Cleveland, or Cincinnati here. But what you will find is my little hometown of Louisville. And you can see these are all small towns. And somebody came up with this database, and there you see Louisville. Click on Louisville, and it says basic information, independent city or town, politics, became a city sometime in the mid-19th century, census information, method of exclusion, main ethnic groups unknown, groups excluded Blacks, comments. One source claims that a Black family was run out in the late 1980s. Another source mentions racially restrictive covenants in Ohio apartment deeds. And that includes, covenants means real estate purchase agreements. So for example, my sister runs a hair salon. She cuts hair, and my father helped set her up with a hair salon, and they bought an old house, and they looked at the deed in the business district to make this real estate into a hair salon, and it said in the covenant of this deed from 1940 for this house that you were only allowed to have one live-in Negro housemaid. That was the term. It was in the covenant. You can only have one live-in Negro housemaid live in this house from this 1940 document, which, of course, you can't have anything like that today, but it was part of the law back then. You could put something like that in the law. And a resident of nearby Massillon, Ohio, stated that his father recalled seeing a sign in Louisville that read, "Niggers out before dark," and remembers seeing it until the late 1970s. A Louisville resident does not remember a sign, but admits that many of the neighbors hated Blacks. They couldn't tell you why, and that racism was real. And just to show you, and so Hyundai, with this factories and these international corporations, they like to invest money in the South, in Alabama, in Tennessee, in Kentucky, because these states do not typically have strong protections for forming trade unions for workers. It's difficult to keep and maintain and form unionized labor organizations in the southern states. They're called so-called right-to-work states. They're states in which unlike in Ohio, for example, not like in Alabama, in Ohio, if a group of people working in a company, working in a business, they want to try to form a union for those workers. The National Labor Relations Board, this is big news now because Starbucks and Amazon factory, Amazon warehouse workers are attempting to form unionized workers in Starbucks cafes, coffee shops, and Amazon warehouses. In these union states, if the workers in the factory or business or warehouse want to form a union, the National Labor Relations Board that was formed in the 1930s under Franklin Delano Roosevelt will come in and organize an election, like they're doing now with Amazon warehouse workers and Starbucks coffee shop employees. And if over half the people that vote in favor of forming a union, then they form the union, and everybody who works in that warehouse or works in that Starbucks coffee shop must join the union. Even if they didn't vote for it, even if they voted against it, they must join the union and they must pay union membership fees, which is like maybe what, $50 a month, nothing really, 50,000 won a month. And so you must, and that union will then represent the workers in negotiating with the owner of the business, with the management, with Amazon or with Starbucks. And this is a state law, and northern states, not all, because they're changing it, have this type of law, including Ohio, but not Alabama, not Kentucky, not Tennessee. They're called so-called right to work states. In other words, you do not have to join the union if you do not want to. You do not have to pay membership fees to the union, even if the majority of the people working in that Starbucks coffee shop or that Amazon warehouse vote to unionize. You do not have to all join the union, and you do not all have to pay membership fees in that union. And that's considered to be a very strong weakness for organizing unions to represent workers in these states. And that's one of the reasons why, beginning in the 1970s, Honda Corporation in Japan, or Nissan in Japan, or also other companies, including European car companies, they tend to prefer to build their factories in the American South because these are so-called right to work states, right to work states. So it's worth, if you're Hyundai, you're going to know this, and you're going to take that in consideration. It's a very important factor in deciding where you're going to invest to build your factory. If it's not easy to form unions, that's going to be a big advantage to attract Hyundai or Honda or Nissan or whomever, or Samsung, to build a factory in the South. And that is, of course, companies do build factories in the northern states, but typically they also make some kind of deal or political negotiations with the state governor or the state authorities, as well as the federal government, that they want certain guarantees and protections that are not publicized to make it more attractive, to compensate for the fact that those laborers, those workers in those new factories, they might well vote to unionize. So that's why Hyundai has this huge factory in Montgomery, Alabama, and not close to Chicago or close to New York or close to, or in California, for example. And that's also a reason why Elon Musk is moving his headquarters of his Tesla Corporation to Texas, because Texas is a right to work state. That's one of, not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons why he is now moving his headquarters from California to Texas. And the same is true, I think, with I think Nissan. Nissan is also moving from California, its headquarters, to Texas. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but certainly one of the reasons is that Texas is a right to work state. And but also in terms of the significance of this for understanding American politics and American nationalism. And, I mean, I'm teaching this class as a political science professor. That's my background. I should also tell you that Louisville, Ohio, this little town of 10,000 people, is notorious because it was one of the only places in the United States that in which its school system attempted to adopt this textbook for teaching biology and science in the local school system in Louisville, Ohio. You know, perhaps you do, perhaps you might take American politics class, that America is a very decentralized society in terms of the education system is typically run at the local and state level. So the local counties are divided into school districts. So I think there's 6 school districts in my home county of Stark County, Ohio. There's a school district for Louisville, and there's thousands and thousands of school districts. They're run by a school board, and these people are elected. We always have elections in the United States. And one of the big issues before climate change became a big controversial topic and the coronavirus pandemic and wearing masks was whether or not they should be teaching in biology science classes the theory that human beings and life on Earth came through what's called, in the last 40 years, they're calling it, 50 years, they're calling it intelligent design. It used to be, the term was creationism, that God created life, that God created humans, creationism. That was the old term from 100 years ago, creationism versus evolution. That was promoted first, made well known by Charles Darwin, his book on the origin of species, right? Evolution. And the opposition to the teaching of evolution claims that, of course, that makes people lose their moral, or contributes to them losing their moral and ethical foundations if they believe that there is not a God, that human beings are descended from, evolved from ancestors that are not human, and that this teaching of evolution undermines Christian belief. And so for many, many years, there's been this effort to try to press these school systems to teach creationism in biology class. So you see the term creationist. It's often called intelligent design, that there must be an intelligent designer. And I did get some Cacao Talk chats from my evangelical church pointing out that there must be an intelligent designer who made the world the way it is, et cetera, et cetera. And this is the book that these people try to promote that includes discussion of so-called intelligent design of pandas and people. And Louisville, Ohio is one of only the few out of thousands of school districts in America that attempted to have this book used in the school system. And so, I'm telling you this because I am trying to, big focus of this class, not Louisville, the big focus of this class is science, and what is science, right? And why can't I call up to find, is it here? Well, I should be able to find it here. I wonder where, it doesn't, I'm looking for the find, oh, there it is, Louisville, okay. And so you see, yes, in September 1994, residents of Louisville, Ohio voted 121-2 to urge the local school board to adopt of pandas and people. And this acquired national attention, my school district. And of course, they were then sued by the American Civil Liberties Union to stop them, claiming this basically, so what does this imply? That somehow this conservative religious orientation is somehow associated with the foundation of the United States on the basis of racial identity. That creationism, conservative religious values, American white supremacy, American nationalism, they're all connected to each other. They all have a relationship. And that was really illustrated by the Donald Trump presidency. The rioters who attacked the US Capitol on January 6, 2021, they were articulating, expressing their demands in terms of the will of Jesus, the will of God. And so this is, again, one of the reasons why we would be interested in qualitative research, because, if you're interested in this mindset, you would want to go do qualitative research to investigate, what are these people thinking? How could they do this? And it's been known that the American Civil Liberties Union, which is a progressive pro-civil rights organization, has a lawyer specifically tasked in the big city of Cleveland, close to my hometown, watching what Louisville does, what Louisville is up to. And Louisville, in other words, Louisville is a problem. It's known to be a problem. And again, but again, qualitative research would be what you would use to investigate what's going on in this kind of situation. And it's difficult to do because, you have to be able to convince people that you don't have ill will toward them, that you respect them. And I'm talking about these people in a way that is, it might imply that somehow they're a problem. And of course, they don't think they're a problem. But we do want to understand what's in their mindset for why they attempted to adopt this. And there are other, well, I could go on here, other evidence about that I remember from my high school days in the 1970s about what I was taught in school. Like, we used to say the Lord's Prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done as on earth as it is in heaven. Blessed is his name. And we used to say this every morning in the school system over the PA, over the public address system in the 1970s. And you're not supposed to do that. It's against American civil rights law because there could be Jewish students in the school and they don't want to hear the Lord's Prayer, the Christian prayer. They don't have to say it. You can say, well, they don't have to say it. Well, then you all watch them. Oh, you're not saying the Lord's Prayer, huh? Or Muslim students or Buddhist students. We don't have any Buddhists in Louisville. I don't know if we have any Muslims. I don't even know if we have any Jews. But and they would just get away with this. And anyway, but interesting stories that and I've been thinking about this a lot since, of course, with the pandemic and social media making this kind of communication feasible. Like, I didn't know about this Sundown Town list and this Sundown Town author. And so just to, highlight, provide some greater context for my little story about, as we said, when you do narrative research, you're supposed to describe your own background. You're supposed to bracket yourself in your narrative study. You're supposed to be explicit about who you are and illustrate your background and your interests so that you can try to control for, or at least make the reader aware of your own biases that you are trying to control for. And all right, so let's go to the notes then and talk about the notes for this week. So remember, if you are a corporate manager, your job is to motivate your people to get the best out of them. And your people are not going to be like me or you, right? They're going to be people that are working in your Hyundai factory in Montgomery, Alabama, that hopefully have graduated from high school, although, a lot of people don't graduate from high school. And you have to get them motivated and excited about working for you. And that means you have to be able to deal with cultural differences. And evidently they do this. I mean, I've seen reports how in Montgomery, Alabama, they're doing quite well there. Even so far, for example, the Korean community that has been established in Montgomery. Let me see what comes up here. If I can do this here quickly. Look at the Hyundai Montgomery. What comes up here? Yeah. So here's, of course, the, let me see if I can, well, I was looking for the Hyundai website. And of course, maybe I won't look for it here. Is this it? So just to show you what I'm referring to in terms of, if it comes up. Hyundai has done really well, and it's not coming up here, but they've outperformed the other companies that are active in the United States. Like during the 2008 recession, deep recession before